Hi, I'm Ashley Hammond.
And I'm Locke Hammond.
We're married.
We run a business together.
And we homeschool our 4 kids.
That makes us sound a little crazy.
I think people might think we're a little crazy.
Well, through all that crazy, we're here to help you blaze your own trail through a world designed for conformity.
And break the chains holding you back from living an uncommon life.
This is Trailblazers and Chainbreakers.
Hello.
Hello.
I figured
You
it
started early.
My clock, I was telling them the clock is different in this house. My clock said.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, how convenient. You just wanted to start early so that I showed up late and you could make fun of me.
I don't think that's the thing.
The real world is finding out about how you actually are.
Yeah, right. Don't be fresh.
We have enough of that in this house?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Fine. You win. Yes, dear. Can you hear Riley? So our 2-year-old I said yes, dear, and our 2-year-old just yelled yes, dear across the house too. So.
Oh, that's fun. Oh, that would probably be a child chirping in.
I'm sure there will. All right. So we're starting with a quote.
Yep.
This week's quote is, I believe it's from Ralph Waldo Emerson, but I might be wrong about that. And the quote is, "What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say." So tell me about that. How does that make you feel?
I think that's absolutely true. It kind of reminds me of the whole saying, actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, being a parent, you can say something to your kid till your face turns blue. They don't hear what you're saying. They follow you by what you do. So setting a good example and actually doing what you say is really huge. And I get lost in that sometimes. I'm like, why don't you listen to me?
Yeah.
So I think it's even more important to be modeling behaviors and habits that you want to instill in your kids, because they are little cues walking around. As much as you want them to be their own people, individuals, they are going to take a lot of you and what you do with them. So
Absolutely. Well, I would add, it's not even, it is obviously parenting is the most prominent example of how important this quote is. But I would add, it's not just that. It's, in every aspect of your life. So, you can't have a good friendship if your words don't match your actions. You can't be a good leader in business or at work or whatever aspect you're trying to be a leader if your words don't match your actions. It makes me, I'll hit on this and we don't have to go deep, but think about current events in politics. This whole, in air quotes, trust us, every 4 years, the election cycle, how many times do you hear words that are not ever backed up with actions when they get elected? The current situation, regardless of how you feel about it, is a very divisive topic where there are two very angry sides, which is a problem in and of itself. But there's a lot of people on both sides saying one thing and their actions don't match it.
yeah.
So I think it applies to every aspect of our lives. And the other thing that just popped into my mind as you were talking is it reminded me of something that my grandfather used to say, my dad's dad. And he didn't say it much to me and my brothers, but I remember my dad talking about him saying it a lot. And he used to say it very sarcastically, but he would say, "Do as I say, not as I do," to my dad.
Yeah.
And it was his way of admitting that, I don't do everything I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I screw stuff up. So listen more to my words than my actions. And he said it very sarcastically, and he was self-aware enough, which I think back then was pretty rare.
Yeah.
To be self-aware enough to realize that, to be able to say it, because it wasn't like a command. It wasn't it wasn't obey me. That's not at all how he was. It was an admission without having to actually come out and admit it. And that was certainly how my dad took it. And I've had conversations with him about that, but I mean, you nailed it. They follow our actions, not our words. It's, is that Charlie Brown where it's want, whatever that is? We talked about that. I really think that's what they hear sometimes.
It is what they hear. And if you think about all the things that I've read, kids are so active in their minds, thinking about a million different things. Like when a parent is constantly nagging at them, they hear what their creative mind is like hearing. They don't hear anything that the words that are coming out. They just see the way we react.
In their defense, sometimes that's what I hear when you talk. So,
well, thank you. I love you too.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep going on this, but you could also say, you mentioned politics. You can also say the same for self-development became huge years ago.
Yeah.
And I was talking with the ladies on my coaching call last night. Self-development is huge. And you hear a lot of the self-development gurus saying, you know, do this, do that, and like all these steps, and you'll live like a perfect, happy life. And like, nobody's going to live a perfect, happy life anyways. But a lot of those people that are making millions of dollars aren't doing the things they're telling you to do. And we've that through very famous people throughout the years that got caught in the scam. And that really makes me sad because a lot of people that are following them are struggling and they're being hard on themselves because it isn't easy and there is no end point to self-growth. Yeah. And these people are pushing it like it is easy and you should just figure it out. And they're not doing the things. They're actually not a lifestyle that they are pushing on other people.
Right. And you're not saying that coaches or public figures have to be perfect. You're just saying, you know, not necessarily the little day-to-day things. You're saying like the big stuff, like the relationship guru who for years has preached how to respect your partner and all the stuff that's really important. And then, you know, with no warning, with no admission and honesty that he or she is going, or they are going through tough times in a breakup, it comes out they're, you know, getting divorced. I agree. I think it's important to say that because you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do everything every day. It's more of the values that you're showing. If your kids, go ahead.
You don't have
go
to
ahead.
be perfect and you don't have to show up. My point is if you're going to be in front of people making money off of something, or even not making money, saying you are doing stuff, admit that
you got to do it.
Human, because you've made the choice to be a public figure. So admit that you are human and admit when you are going through the struggle instead of portraying like you're living this joyful life. And if you take these steps, your life will be fantastic.
So be, and that's, you do a really good job of being honest and vulnerable and admitting when you're struggling in a public way, I guess. So what I hear you saying, I like using that on you because you're the coach, you use it. What I hear you saying is, you know, don't portray yourself as a God that has no flaws. Be open and honest and show that it's okay to struggle. I think that's important because when you see these, I know you and I both know who we're talking about, but these relationship gurus, this specific pair of relationship gurus who portray everything as perfect and you know, they're thriving and growing and all this stuff. And then out pops the news that they're getting divorced. Not only is that disheartening, but I think a bigger problem that brings up is everything that they taught, in my mind, knowing what I know and being able to talk about this with you now, everything that they taught and I heard from them is almost tainted. Like, I know that it's still valid, but at the same time, it's like, it feels like I almost want to resist. And and this specific case, who doesn't need to be named, like, they have a lot of great content material. Like some of their stuff really helped you and I through a lot of things. And at the same time, I'm like, I don't even want to hear from them anymore. I don't even want to listen to their old podcasts that were good. I don't want to read their old stuff. Like, and it helped me, and I can catch myself in that. But I think it does that for a lot of other people. If you're not honest, then you can have the best thing that you're trying to teach. It can be the best thing in the world. It can help millions of people. But if you're not honest and they don't see you as honest, they're going to resist what you're teaching too.
Yeah.
You're not going to help people.
Yeah, I agree. So actions
All right.
louder than words, my friend.
Indeed.
You ready for the question?
I'm ready for the question. It actually kind of, I didn't see this coming, but it actually kind of ties in with the quote we just did.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Okay. What's the foundation of a strong relationship?
Yeah, I like this question because my answer has changed repeatedly over the years.
Yeah.
You know, what I thought made a strong relationship years ago is very different, and it repeatedly changes. And I think that's okay. I think there's a lot of answers. Like, there's no wrong answer to this. There's a lot of words that pop into my head, like love, trust, respect. But what it comes down to is a phrase that I've been stuck on, that I've talked to you about. And it came from actually when we were coaching with Paul Blanchard and Dave Blanchard from the Og Mandino Institute. And I don't know if it's something they use in their coaching or if it's just something that one of them said in passing, but it stuck with me. And it's this idea of honoring your partner, spouse, wife, husband, whatever word you want to use. So in my context, it's you. Mm-hmm. So how am I honoring Ashley? And that, for me, has been the foundation of how I think we've gotten our relationship stronger than it's ever been, because I ask myself, how am I honoring Ashley? And it kind of, it covers all of those other bases, those other words like love, trust, respecting you, letting you be you, instead of having an expectation for what I think you should show up as for me. Mm-hmm. Because you are the way you need to be, and I can't control you. You've talked a lot about expectations publicly and with your coaching clients and all that stuff. And whenever I have expectations for you, a way that I think you should show up, and you either do or don't, it doesn't matter whether you show up the way I think you should or not. Having expectations of you is not honoring you. Yeah. It's not letting you be you. And I think as soon as I learned to let that go, and I still struggle with that a lot, and I still get really frustrated sometimes, but as soon as I could let go of the expectations and focus on honoring you, like, how can I show up for you? I got what I wanted. You know, it shifts the perspective away from, and I'm going to say selfish, and I don't say that as a bad word, because I think you should be selfish sometimes. I think people aren't selfish enough in the sense that they take care of themselves and they think about themselves. Yeah. Obviously, you don't want to be selfish in terms of hurting someone else to get what you want. But it shifted it from my perspective of, okay, so I want, in this situation, I want to be validated, or I want to be right, or I want to win this argument, yeah. Or I want to be loved, or whatever. And it shifted the perspective away from what I want. And if I can focus on how am I honoring you, how am I showing up for you, then all of a sudden you're sensing that without knowing it. And you may use different words in your head, or you may not even be thinking about it, but then you start showing up in a way that honors me. Mm-hmm. And you go back to this kind of a cliche idea of, you get what you put out. Yeah. It's like the law of abundance. If you give, it will come back to you. They teach it in all, I would assume, all the religions. Every religion that I've bumped into teaches the same kind of concept, give and you'll receive kind of concept. I think that's true in terms of, so I want to be honored in our relationship. I want you to think about how you can show up for me. Yeah. And so I have to do it for you first. And that's, I want to hear what you think about that, because I know you have some thoughts on that, but I think that's really important. And I want to make 2 points. One, that's what the foundation for the strength in our relationship. That's how we've gone through some some rocky parts of our relationship, but that's how we've built our relationship strong now, I think. But I would also add that that's hard to do. And again, you don't need to be perfect in that. And so I don't want other people to think like, well, like we were just talking about with the quote, actions versus words, and being perfect. I don't want people to think that we do this every minute of the day. Like, yes, I'm sure yesterday we were snapping at each other for 2 minutes, and then we can come back from that. But what do you think about the question? What do you think about what I just said first, and then you can go into, I'm sure you have a slightly different answer to the question too.
It's funny because I was just talking about, I've heard from somebody years ago, and I don't remember who it was, but it really spiked a light in my brain. You always see marriage as 50-50. I'm like, okay. But then I read something and it was like, a marriage is 100% my responsibility and it's 100% your responsibility. And I was like, holy smokes, like how true is that? So if I think about years ago in our marriage, I was very resentful of you and very angry with you. But if I take that back and look at it now, everything that I was angry about was 100% my responsibility. It was things that I didn't speak up about, things that I needed, things that were bothering me. I was in holding in. So to me, a strong foundation for a relationship is being able to have a safe container for each other where even we can talk about the uncomfortable stuff and not be afraid. And sometimes people don't like to hear things that they're not doing well. That was hard for both you and I. That was hard for us to be like, to call us each other like shit. Like it was hard. So I think the biggest key for me of a strong relationship is being able to feel safe and to be able to feel like we can communicate all things, even the hard things.
Yeah.
And not just have a strong friendship. You need passion. You need so many different aspects to a relationship. It's not just one thing. And also knowing that it's not going to always be easy. There are going to be really good times and there's going to be really hard times. And for myself, that was a hard pill to swallow because I wanted to give up when it was hard, because that was my go-to, was to run and hide when things got hard. I think a lot of people think marriage is supposed to be this certain way, like we see the fairy tales in the movies, and we don't live up to that, and then we just want to give up and get divorced. And I'm not saying in some situations divorce is very necessary. I'm saying do the hard stuff, do the uncomfortable stuff, and don't just give up and just be like, I'm done, like we're over.
Yeah.
There's going to be thoughts. So
I think, you said something about some passion and other things that are necessary. I totally agree. I think, you've heard me talk about foundational concepts, foundational truths.
Yeah.
This idea of, some people call them, keystone truths.
Yeah.
Basically building blocks. I think that honoring, and Hannah asked us a question that I want to get to about what honoring actually means.
Yeah.
Which is an awesome question. But I think honoring each other in terms of my answer, and I think you focused on like a safe space, which is actually a beginning of defining what I mean by honoring.
Yeah.
I think that those two things for each of us, that's the foundation. And then the other pieces are built on top of that. If you don't have a safe space for you use the phrase safe space. So if you don't have a safe space for me or from me, the passion can't come. The friendship can't come. And you can work on passion and friendship individually, But so it's, what's the foundation of a strong relationship is the question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what that is. And so in terms of, Hannah's question was about, let me see if I can read it without you guys staring deep into my face. Can you guys expand more on what the word honor? It's a word I've personally heard often that I've never really had a practical and full picture of what honoring means. That's a really, really good question because it is kind of an abstract term.
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of what I'm thinking, so it's kind of two perspectives. In terms of what Ashley said about a safe space, that's one piece of it, the two. So we think, Ashley and I think, everybody's on their own journey, everybody's on their own evolution, whatever word you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for me to honor Ashley, I need to respect her journey, her evolution. And so I can't fix her. If we'll do, so I think you said something about we're doing a podcast in the last one of these. One of the beginning episodes of the podcast is going to be like how we met, but then it's also going to be about how, which is a cool story to begin with. But one of the things that I think we'll talk about is the stories that we were telling coming into our relationship. And one of those for me was it's like the hero story, right? So I've always gotten in, if I ever got into a fight, like a fist fight, it was almost always, besides like my brothers, it was almost always coming to the aid of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see someone being hurt, I have a hard time not stopping that. If I see someone who needs help, it's a good thing, but it's also a flaw because I'm trying to play that role. And so for Ashley, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but she was on the flip side of that. She was looking for someone to rescue her. And that was the story that we were telling ourselves when we met, and we fit perfectly into that story. And then we started to bump heads because we both wanted to change our side of the story. And so like within that, it's a longer story, right? But the point of that, to get back to honoring, is I had to learn to honor Ashley's journey, Ashley's evolution, by realizing I can't fix her. Not that she's broken at all, but I can't fix her, whether it's her, you were going through some health stuff for a while, which is getting better. I can't fix your health stuff. I can't fix the things, the trauma that you have. We both have some trauma, but you have a lot of different things that when I learned about it, I got really mad and I wanted to fix it for you. Good intentioned, but I can't fix it. You have to heal it. I can't have, I mentioned expectations. I can't have expectations of how you're going to show up. I have to respect the fact that you're going to show up the way you need to show up now to learn the lesson that you need to learn to become the person that you're going to be.
Yeah.
And if that's not the lesson that I want you to learn, or that's not the way that I want you to show up, that's my own bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not yours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, like you said, how hard it is for anyone, and especially us, to be told that we're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
like really hard for me. Yeah. I'll admit that. And for both of us, but it's the same thing. It's really hard for us to hear in the moment. It's almost impossible, but shortly after the moment, hopefully, and definitely a little ways after the moment, you can realize, hey, I'm reacting to this situation with whoever it is, your spouse or friend or whoever, because of the way that I thought that it should go. Yeah. But the way that it went was exactly how it needed to go for the other person.
Yeah.
And actually for yourself too, because you're learning the lesson. So that's the first piece in my definition of honoring, is realizing that everyone, including Ashley, is on their own journey. I can't control them. I can't fix them. And I need to respect that. I need to respect and honor her journey. And part of that is specifically for Ashley. Sometimes I need to call her out on her crap when I think she'll hear it, and she can decide whether she wants to hear it or not. I have to respect her decision. Mm-hmm. And other times, like when you're worked up, honey, and spiraling about something, it's really hard for me to not come in and say, okay, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
This phrase, it's going to be okay, or you're okay, that's not honoring you, because you don't feel okay.
It's invalid. validating the way that I'm feeling. It's not allowing me to feel,
Right.
to move forward. I need the space to feel whatever it is. And I need to be able, through my growth, to move past it on my own. And when somebody comes in and tells you that it's going to be okay, or it's no big deal, that's making me feel like whatever I'm going through right now is not important.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I know you want to say something. Let me finish up real quick. So included in that aspect of Ashley's on her own evolution, I want to improve myself further to continue supporting her. So I'm very much driven to support. It's become, instead of fixing as the hero, supporting Ashley. And so you could say supporting, respecting, honoring are all kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
The other piece of that, did you have anything you wanted to say about that, or can I go with the other piece?
No, you can go with the other piece.
Okay. So the other piece of that is thinking back to, I mentioned Paul and Dave Blanchard, who, if you guys, anybody watching this, if you don't know them, go look them up and follow them. I know Paul's pretty active on social media. I don't know about Dave. Dave is Paul's father. I think back to, I really love the question that Hannah asked about what honoring actually means, because it's a hard thing to define. And so I think the second aspect for me, I don't know if I'm going to do a good job explaining this. When we met Paul at a convention, at a real estate convention for the company I was working at, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago in the Bahamas, it was nice to be in the Bahamas. Whatever. See, you're not honoring my journey. My journey was to be wrong.
Okay.
Anyways, we met Paul and Dave at the convention. They were at the trade show, and they do a lot of things, but they're like high performance coaches. I don't know how, I don't want to describe them in a way that they wouldn't want to be described. They're coaches, but they teach from the books of a guy named Og Mandino, which he's worth looking up his books too. But the point is, we coached with Paul for a while. Paul is Dave's son, but we also ended up going to a couples retreat with Dave and his wife, Ramona. Mm-hmm. And the point of me sharing this is my parents had modeled a lot of good things for me, and they certainly didn't model a bad relationship at all. But when I saw the way that Dave specifically, Ramona is fantastic, but I'm looking at Dave as a male role model and how a relationship should be. So this is not to take away from Ramona at all, because she plays an equally important part. But I was looking specifically at Dave and saying, this is how a man shows up in a relationship. This is what honoring his wife looks like. And it's hard to put into words, but his face would still light up after I don't know, how long do you think they were married? Like 40 years longer? I don't want to date them. I think Paul's around our age.
Yeah.
And so, 40 plus, maybe 50 years. I don't know. I'm terrible at judging age, but after 40 or longer years, his face still lights up when his wife walks in the room.
Yeah.
And he talks about his wife like she's an angel, and it's not blind devotion. Like she is a wonderful human being. And it's just that admiration. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like she was at all like a possession. Like sometimes we can be really proud of our kids or our wives. Like men especially can live vicariously through our children through sports.
Yeah.
And be proud, but it's more about, look what I've done.
Yeah.
And me as a father. It wasn't like, look what I got. I got the really hot girl. Look at me, I'm awesome. It was, he's just so in love and respects her so much. And I don't know how to put it into words. It's going to sound like something that you can't create, like something like it just comes naturally. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I strive for. Like I strive to see you when you're struggling and love you just as much as when you're kicking ass. I want our kids to see me reacting to you the way that I saw Dave reacting to Ramona. Yeah. And by having that example, I saw that it was real and possible.
Yeah.
So that, I guess I would break it into those two pieces. Apparently somebody's going outside. You going outside? And Daddy? Well, I'll come outside with you in a couple minutes, okay? Okay. So I hope that answers the honoring question. That's from my perspective. I don't know if you want to throw something in.
No, I think that was
to
good.
Hannah's question.
I think that was good. Yeah. I did want to say something though, to ask a question for the people that are watching. I thought that it would look better with me above, block below. He wanted, because we're in the same house now, to be. He thought it would be better if we were sat. But I was thinking, I don't know how that. With a phone, we'd have to. I don't know. So I just.
Oh, your audio is kind of breaking up, and I don't know if it's me. You're talking about whether we should be above and below each other or side by side.
Yeah, like we are right now, or if we should be side by side. I like it better but I don't know.
I like it better like this, and I don't remember saying that. So maybe I'm losing my mind. I mean, it is your birthday coming up, and you're gonna be older than me. You're gonna be you're 6 months older than me, so you are getting old. Oh, I have something on my face. Is it right here? This is the Hammond family salute for anybody that doesn't know. It's interesting that you're asking a question of the audience. I would like, if anybody has thoughts on what honoring your partner in your relationship looks like, I'd love for people to put that in the comments below. I know that when this shows up in your feed, that the comments will stay. I don't know if the comments from this live video go to your feed. I don't think they do. No. But if you guys are watching this as a recording, add in your 2 cents what you think honoring looks like, what you do to honor your spouse or your partner, or what you think that it should look like. Because I don't want to under stress how important it was for me to see a real life example of what honoring looks like. So I'm always looking to grow in that sense. And
also, we're doing this every Friday for now. We're trying to see if this time works in this day. So for now,
I think it works.
Coffee Talk with Ashley and Locke will be at 9. I also open to, we're going to do a question and a quote every week. I'm open to, if you have a good quote or a good question, putting that, because it's a regular feed in the live, putting that in the comment as well. Because
we'll field questions.
I have
as long as it's not something like, why on earth would you have so many kids? Because
I have plenty of quotes, and I'm open to people wanting us to answer questions or quotes or say our feedback on that. So
cool.
So
all right, I'm getting the hairy eyeball from a couple kids who want to go outside and swing on the swing set or jump on the trampoline. I don't even know what they want. They might be hungry. I don't know. Somebody's bleeding. Somebody wants food. I don't know.
They're alive, so they're good.
Well, 3 of them are. I don't know where the 4th one is.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys next week then.
All right. Bye.
Hi friends, if you're enjoying the show, would you please leave a quick rating or review on Apple Podcasts for us? Doing this helps more people find the podcast, which means even more people can benefit from the conversations. We really appreciate you and your time, and thanks, as always, for listening.